Go fruit yourself.
Minamata disease is a neurological condition. Mercury poisons the central nervous system, damages the sense of balance and motor skills, which leads to increasingly intense body convulsions and ultimately death.
Hey Fruitbats, it's Really Banana Girl here. Welcome to another episode. So today is Motivational Mondays. I'm here to help motivate you for the week. And today's topic is an important one. It's about fish and seafood. We've been told forever that fish is really good for you. It's a health food. But is it really? That's what I'm going to talk about today. And I have a big history of fish. I come from a small fishing community and we basically had fish every night. And I'm going to tell you a secret, I hated it. As my mum and my family knows, I hated it. Okay, I used to come to the kitchen table, to the dining room table with my pockets filled full of tissues. So every time that my dad and my mum would look down to have a bite of their fish, I would be regurgitating it into the tissues and putting it into my pockets. And then after dinner, I would flush it down the toilet. So you can see, from an early age, I hated fish. But that did change as I got older, and I'll talk about that soon. So is it really a health food? No, it's not. Let's get into why it is not a health food. Check this out.
We know that seafood contains amounts of mercury, but just how much is there, really? A new device can actually test a piece of fish in less than a minute for pennies a serving.
There is too much mercury in a third of the fish tested by one chemical engineer.
We've tested probably 75,000 fish since 2004. We've certainly found more mercury in fish than we thought would be there.
Mal Wittenberg with Safe Harbor Seafood Certification invented this mercury detection machine, which challenges the safety standards set by the FDA. The federal government allows seafood to contain 1 part per million of mercury. That's twice the levels allowed in Canada and Europe. Japan's is even lower. Safe Harbor also sets the limits much lower by taking the industry average for each species of fish, and if the mercury concentration in a sample goes over, it fails. We put Bay Area sushi to the test, taking samples from grocery stores and boutique markets to restaurant chains and high-end sushi houses. Technician Bob Bragg drills out a piece the size of a grain of rice and measures for mercury concentration. First, from Safeway's Deli, sushi made with yellowfin or ahi tuna.
And the mercury concentration is 0.953.
The standard for ahi is 0.4 parts per million, so it's twice the limit set by Safe Harbor. Would you eat it?
No.
In this batch of 26 sushi samples, salmon from Bristol Farms, a boutique market in downtown San Francisco, and hamachi, or yellowtail, from Japantown's Nijiya Market, both failed the Safe Harbor test. Yellowtail from Benihana chain restaurant and more pricey sushi bar Ozumo both hit above the 0.4 parts per million limit set by Safe Harbor and failed.
That highlights the variability of mercury in seafood. You just don't know unless you test it. You can't look at it, you can't predict it.
Currently, the FDA conducts blanket tests on random batches of fish, with the costly results arriving in a week, well after the fish is sold.
Okay, so it's obvious, folks, that the government is not looking after us, so we have to look after ourselves. The level of mercury in those fish was ridiculous. Okay, I used to be a huge sushi buff. I was at sushi bar 5-6 times a week, honing into the sashimi. So that explains some of the symptoms that I was having at the time. Seriously, like my mercury levels would have been huge. And what happens is methyl mercury, it comes from our environment, it goes into the ocean. From big, industries like the pharmaceutical industry, meat and dairy industry, all those nasty chemicals come into the air, go into the ocean, they come through the waterways into our big, beautiful ocean, and they poison it. And then you know what? They concentrate in the fat of these fish. 9 million times of what's in the water, it concentrates into the fish, and then we eat it, and then we expect to be healthy. So up next is some serious methyl mercury poisoning. Check it out.
In 1954, the Sanitation Office of Minamata City began receiving reports of an unknown epilepsy-like affliction, which has since become known as Minamata disease. Since the cause of the disease had not been identified, patients were isolated to prevent spread of the disease. In 1957, the Minamata Disease Research Group of Kumamoto University announced that Minamata disease is a toxic disorder of the central nervous system caused by certain organic mercury compounds transmitted through the intake of seafood. They isolated organic mercury as the sole cause. In the same year, extremely toxic levels of organic mercury were detected in the human patients. The report submitted to the Ministry of Health and Welfare stated that the underlying cause was organic mercury in seafood, and the wastewater discharge from the factory was suspected. Afflicted patients continued to be found until 1960. A rash of babies were born with brain damage and extreme physical disabilities. The governor of Kumamoto requested a voluntary ban on catches of seafood from the bay.
Wow, so that's some seriously nasty, nasty business. And I know some of you out there are saying, oh, I'm gonna be okay, it's fine. You know, that's just an extreme case of methylmercury poisoning. I only have it a couple of times a week. Really, stop scaring us. Well, folks, if you have it even a little bit, if you keep ingesting the fish, then the mercury levels in your body are going to increase because it accumulates in your tissues. And you may not make that connection between that symptom that you're experiencing and the fish that you're consuming and that methylmercury poisoning that you're experiencing.
Now, Sue Kwan, everybody knows Sue Kwan, she's KPIX News, and she decided to do a supersize me with albacore tuna. And I said, Sue, you shouldn't do this. She says, well, I've already had my kids, and I ate a lot of tuna when I was younger, and I don't think it was too bad. I can't remember too much going on then, but, you know, maybe it's my memories going. So let me just eat it for 10 days. So she ate a can of tuna for 10 days, and her mercury went from 4.2 to 8.9. I said, well, I want to do it for another 10 days. I said, you really shouldn't do this, Sue, you know, because I can't tell her ethically to eat mercury every day. Yet people do it on a regular basis. So then her mercury went up to 17.2. And her projected mercury level would have been in the 50s had she continued at that rate. Of course, she went on the news and talked about it. The fishing industry wasn't too happy. They wrote a big letter back to Sue Kwan and mentioned my name in the letter 15 times and weren't too happy with supersize me albacore tuna. But it just goes to show that it does accumulate. So what did the FDA say about their action level? And this is in an email that I got that Sue forwarded to me. It said, from the FDA official said, I will speak about how the FDA defines an action level. The action level is a non-binding guidance that the FDA issues to establish a level of a contaminant that may be regarded as adulterated or illegal. The action level serves as guidance for the FDA, but does not commit the FDA to take any action. You know, if you're going to have an action level and don't take action, then why are you having an action level? So that's why when you go to the grocery stores, you can see fish being tested by all kinds of media personnel and non-government organizations that can be 2, 3, and 4 parts per million in the grocery store, and there's no warning as to that happening because they really can't test every fish. I should say, let me back up, they can test every fish. There is a test. Microanalytical Systems has offered the FDA, and the FDA has declined, telling Microanalytical Systems that what are we going to do with the fish that don't pass? I'll leave that for you to ponder.
Researchers used ultrasound to measure the brain size in newborns of mothers who had high body levels of mercury compared to a control group of women who had low levels of mercury. Let's put that into practical terms. Compared to the low-level control group, here's where the high-level mercury women were. Now, how much canned tuna consumption is that equivalent to? Here's what your body mercury burden is if you eat 1 serving of canned tuna a day, about half a can. Here's what 2 cans a week will do to you, and this is just 1 can a week. So the bodies of the women suffering high mercury contamination in the ultrasound brain study were considered heavily contaminated But even just a little canned tuna once in a while could bump your levels even higher. So the high really wasn't that high, but still, what did they find? They demonstrated that newborns born to mothers with higher mercury hair levels had cerebellums up to 14% shorter than those born to mothers with lower mercury hair levels. They conclude that prenatal exposure to what may be considered really low levels of methylmercury does indeed influence fetal brain development, as detected by decreased size of a newborn's brain.
So I know some of you are saying, oh, but fish oil's okay. I love my fish oil, I have it every morning. Fish oil's safe. No, it's not, folks, okay? One thing in particular that has been found in fish oil is PCBs. Nasty, dangerous chemicals that should never, ever be in the human body. They were banned for use back in 1979 for a reason, okay? Because they are dangerous chemicals. And they've been found in the fish oil, they've been found in fish, because look, like I said before, the chemicals that are found in the environment around the fish, aka the ocean, are concentrated around 9 million times in the fish's flesh. So when you're consuming that oil, when you're consuming that fish, you're consuming a whole lot of other stuff that you need to be made aware of. Check this out.
Now to an important medical alert. Fish oil supplements are constantly touted for their health benefits because they contain omega-3 fatty acids. But a new lawsuit contends they may contain something else too, PCBs, industrial chemicals that were banned back in the 1970s because they cause cancer and birth defects.
Beneath the surface of waterways like the Chesapeake Bay, small filter fish ingest polychlorinated biphenyl compounds, or PCBs, that were deposited there decades ago by electrical plants and other polluters. When environmental activists tested 10 different fish oil supplements, they say every one contained PCBs. According to California law, people should not be exposed to more than 90 nanograms of this carcinogen a day. But the results showed 3 of the 10 contained much more than that. Nature-made cod liver oil, and Now Foods salmon oil and double-strength cod liver oil.
People are being exposed to PCBs through these products, and they're not being told.
Are purported benefits of fish oil supplementation for the prevention and treatment of heart disease just a fishtail? Those advised to eat oily fish, and particularly those supplied with fish oil capsules, had a higher risk of cardiac death. Put all the studies together, and there's no justification for the use of omega-3s as a structured intervention in everyday clinical practice, or for guidelines supporting more dietary omega-3s. Well, given the new meta-analysis and other negative meta-analyses, our job as doctors should be to stop highly marketed fish oil supplementation in all of our patients.
But hang on a second, Freely. I eat farm fish. I eat farm salmon. It's really healthy. Well, I hate to break it to you, but it is not. It's just as bad as ocean fish, if not worse. So when it comes down to the question of farmed or ocean, it's like, would you rather a punch in the face or a kick in the guts?
The challenge of our time is to reconnect ourselves back into that world and see the repercussions of what we're doing. And nothing illustrates the issue better than the meal that I just sat down today. You all sat here and chowed down on farmed salmon, and obviously you don't give a shit about what you're putting into your body. You know what a farmed salmon is? It's filled with toxic chemicals. You know, where does the food that you feed your salmon? I know Tasmanian salmon. Those are not Tasmanian salmon. Those are Atlantic salmon that are brought and raised in cages in Tasmania. When you render down these fish into pellets, you concentrate whatever's in them. Then you feed the pellets to the salmon, and you concentrate what's in the pellets. So if you check those salmon, they're filled with dioxin, PCBs, dieldrin, Teflon, malachite green. You can go down the list, and that's what you just put into your bodies. You know, and you know, when you feed salmon pellets, the flesh comes out gray. You wouldn't eat a salmon that was gray. A week before they're to go to the market, the seller comes to the buyer with a fan of colors from bright red to yellow and says, "What color do you want your salmon?"
They also had to figure out a way to make grayish fish flesh look pink, which it is naturally when pulled out of the ocean. So the aquaculture industry feeds farmed fish artificial coloring. This is from the drug company Roche. Fish farmers get to pick out the color they want to dye their flesh like paint chips.
You choose, and they feed it a dye the last week, so the nice orange color you ate is the dye they fed the fish. I'm not even going to talk about the ecological consequences of growing these carnivores in open net pens where sea lice and disease now are spreading to the wild fish in the neighborhood, and all of the buildup of feces under these net pens. The act of consuming that salmon has repercussions that go far beyond this room, that go around the world. But we live in a world in which these connections are shattered and we don't see them any longer.
80% of all seafood sold in the U.S. is now imported.
Now, I don't think that people have any idea how much imported seafood's coming into this country.
The FDA inspects and tests less than 1% of all seafood imports. Less than 1% of all seafood imports. And when it does, it frequently finds filthy fish and banned chemicals. FDA records show page after page of rejected shipments. Catfish from China, veterinary drugs. Swordfish from Vietnam, poisonous. Snapper from Malaysia, filthy.
If it's from a foreign country, I'd be very cautious. I wouldn't eat it.
One of the things often found in this imported fish is a fungicide called malachite green. It's illegal to use in food because it causes cancer and birth defects.
Lab tests routinely detect antibiotics banned for use in food in the United States. Antibiotics are used to treat fish raised in crowded conditions that can breed bacteria, viruses, and parasites. Food safety advocates say the FDA is not doing enough to protect consumers.
Consumers may be getting a dose of antibiotics with their seafood dinner, and that's something that the government should stop.
Lab testers say fish farmers in nations like China play a cat-and-mouse game with them. When the lab rejects shipments for an illegal chemical, foreign fish farmers simply switch to another harmful chemical.
They know it's illegal, they know it hurts people, but they do it anyway.
Researchers say the chemicals and antibiotics found may not make you sick immediately, but eaten over a long period of time, they pose a significant health risk.
When you go out to a seafood restaurant, what type of seafood do you order?
I don't. Why take the chance?
So we've got methyl mercury poisoning, we've got PCBs, we've got artificial colours, we've got antibiotics, a whole lot of other chemicals, nasty chemicals that you are concentrating in your body. You're eating the flesh of the fish and then you're taking it in, putting yourself at risk of serious, serious disease. Is it really worth it? Is it worth it to keep consuming this flesh of the fish? No, it's not. And, oh, I forgot to mention parasitic worms.
There's a parasitic worm in fish called Anisakis. This year we learned that about 2/3 of retail fish samples came up positive for them. This is what they look like. They're really quite small, actually. You can see two here kind of peeking out of some sushi. Because people eat fish raw, parasites are always a concern, but the unique thing about these worms is that our bodies can be so sensitive to them that the worms can trigger an allergic reaction dead or alive, even if they're cooked. So we're finding some people that are allergic to fish really aren't. They're allergic to the dead worms in the fish. In fact, because we feed so much fish meal to chickens, you can have an allergic reaction to a parasitic fish worm and not even eat fish at all. With prevailing westerly winds over Japan, nuclear fallout from the Fukushima nuclear power plant tragedy was detected throughout North America at levels comparable to those seen 25 years earlier from Chernobyl, the only other Category 7 nuclear event in history. Of all the radiation released, only a tiny fraction of the fallout reached U.S. shores. Most was absorbed by the Pacific Ocean. What does that mean for seafood safety? Researchers report unequivocal evidence that Pacific bluefin tuna have transported Fukushima-derived radioactive fallout across the entire North Pacific Ocean. Tuna actually migrate from Japan to California and appear to have taken some radioactivity with them. So what then happens if you eat seafood? Researchers measured the increase in radioactive polonium levels in semen after a single seafood meal. Caused a 300% spike in levels. Probably not enough to cause infertility, but that was just one meal.
Fish and other sea animals are sensitive, intelligent creatures who have a demonstrated capacity to suffer pain. Massive trawling nets indiscriminately drag hundreds of tons of fish and other animals along the ocean floor. As they are dragged up from the ocean depths, the fish undergo excruciatingly painful decompression. The extreme changes in pressure can rupture their swim bladders and pop out their eyes. They are then tossed on board where the surviving fish either suffocate or are crushed to death. Others are still alive when they are hacked apart on these floating slaughterhouses. Untold millions of dolphins, turtles, and other non-target aquatic animals are also killed by ocean trawler nets each year. Today, approximately 1 in 5 fish consumed worldwide is raised in captivity. Like factory-farmed animals on land, farm-raised fish are crowded by the tens of thousands in small, disease- and excrement-ridden areas for their entire lives. When fish reach market weight, they are loaded onto tanker trucks and shipped to slaughter, where common killing methods include slow suffocation.
Okay, so folks, you have all the information here now. You can make an informed decision. And if you don't give up fish after watching this, I don't know, you might be beyond help because it is obviously toxic for your body. Do you want to keep building that mercury in your tissues and putting yourself at risk? It is crazy, crazy, crazy to keep consuming it after all of that has been presented to you. And it's also cruel. You know, you can eat in a way that doesn't hurt any other being around you. From this moment, you can go cruelty-free. You can make the choice, drop the excuses, and pick up a plant-based diet. It's up to you. And cruelty-free, I mean for yourself as well, because you're actually making yourself healthier. It is a healthier way to live. So it is win-win on every level. And folks, eating fish is not sustainable. It is raping the ocean, as you saw from that video. Raping the ocean, it is not nice to the fish. Simply not nice at all. It's barbaric, it's disgusting, and it's also not healthy. It's toxic. So why would you not give it up? There's so many fantastic vegan foods that can replace the fish. So please make the right choice for yourself, for the fish, for the environment. Everything that you do, every little bit of food that you eat has a ripple effect around you, okay? It's not each to their own, everyone can eat whatever they want. No, we're in this together. We need to make conscious choices when we sit down to eat. So I hope that was informative. I hope that inspired you to give up the fish, okay? So don't forget to go fruit yourself or root yourself, and I will see you soon.
Farmed animals are every bit as intelligent, curious, and capable of feeling pain and suffering as the dogs and cats so many of us know and love. If you are at all moved by this film, please do your part. Make a commitment today to explore a vegan diet. It could be one of the best decisions of your life. By withdrawing our support of this cruel and violent system, we can put our ethics on the table and make a statement for a kinder and more compassionate society for all animals.
Banana Girl. Go fruit yourself.